Hello, gamers. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to talk about Batman Arkham Asylum. I just wanted to talk about that, and before I started diving into the game, I wanted to mention that for all intents and purposes, I am just going to be speaking of this game as though it was a sole entry. It's a self-standing entity. All right, so before that, though, Batman himself was created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, making his debut on March 30th, 1939 in Detective Comics 27. Batman Arkham Asylum came out on August 25th, 2009 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It would later be released in a collection known as Return to Arkham on October 18th, 2016 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. The original was developed by Rocksteady Studios and published by Eidos Software and Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. And it's written by Paul Dini. Wait, what? Who's Paul Dini? Oh, Paul Dini is a writer for the 90s Batman animated series. And during his time writing for the Batman animated series, he would create several characters for the animated show. One of them was originally going to be just a one-off character, and she was popular, so they brought her back. And she became even more popular, so they made her Joker's girlfriend. Oh, that's right, I'm talking about Harley Quinn. Paul Dini created Harley Quinn. She's totally in this game. I love it. Anyway, speaking of the 90s comic book, we're going to have a total reunion. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill will reprise their role as Batman and Joker, respectively. Their voice work as those two are iconic, to say the least. Moving on. So, the game itself is Batman's worst nightmare at Arkham Asylum. While taking Joker to get locked up, it turns out that the Joker had planned this all along and now has Batman running through the gauntlet, as my sister would put it. So all night long, he is up against his worst enemies. So before we talk about this, which Batman are we talking about? Because this game came out in 2009, right on the heels of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. This does not follow the movie. This is a comic book adaptation. So all of his enemies have been around forever. It seems like Batman's been around for 20 some years in this universe. So all of his enemies have been around, as said, long. With that, yeah, the enemies, they do definitely take center stage, the ones that are there. Joker, of course, is the main villain. His girlfriend, Harley Quinn.
I
Victor
see
Zsasz makes a little
anything that
appearance.
looks...
Riddler's trophies. And also the Scarecrow levels where you're knocked out under his fear gas are cool. And then also Scarecrow's tapes. I thought his were the funniest, at least the first one, where you think it's a normal doctor-patient interview, and then it turns out, no, that was Dr. Crane having tied up the doctor and then pretending to interview him like Dr. Patient would. I thought that was really funny. Bane, I always love Bane, especially when it's done to the proper comic book way. Yeah, I love Bane. Poison Ivy is, in my opinion, one of the main bosses of the game, as well as Killer Croc. With that, man, the death screens. If you die around these bosses, you get to see them taunt you. It's hilarious seeing Harley Quinn be like, "You're nothing but a lightweight loser." I particularly love Jokers that were funny with, "I salute my fallen enemy," and then as he salutes, he falls down. It was really funny. And then there were scarier ones like Scarecrow. Beyond fear is oblivion. And Killer Croc just taunting you about how he's gonna eat you. And it was like, whoa, he's pretty crazy. Uh, they were done absolutely amazing in this game. I loved it. And in the realms of the comic book, yeah, Joker looks like exactly as you would envision him in the comic book. All right, so the lesser enemies, they're still there in the realms of you got Freeze, Two-Face, Ra's al Ghul, Firefly, Calendar Man, Clayface, but they're all in the backgrounds and just make appearances. They're not actually bosses that you will fight. But that adds to the rich atmosphere that this game has. So yeah, speaking of that, the gameplay takes place in the Arkham Mansion. So Arkham Mansion was built 100 years ago by Amadeus Arkham. Since he built it, he immediately built wings for uh, prisoners and the psychologically insane. And so there's also a medical unit, and it's all like 100 years old, and you can see it. In the beginning, when you're traversing through the world, you get gliding like Batman and grappling to about 90% of the surfaces. And when I say 90, it's like 100% of the surfaces outside while you're exploring. There is a small, like 2 levels underneath the mansion that you experience later in the game that you can't grapple to everything. But so no, for most of the game, everything can be grappled to. As long as there's a ledge or something you can see, you'll quickly see R1 and you can grapple to it. From there, you glide like Batman. And it was one of those like Spider-Man webbing to a building and swinging moments where it was like the fantasy has been fulfilled. I was standing on a 2-story structure and I dove off and opened my wings and glided as Batman. Like, there's no feeling like that. It was absolutely a fantasy come true. From then on, you will explore the mansion in a Metroidvania style. So you'll go to some place, you'll unlock some gadget, and then that will unlock a further exploration throughout the mansion. It's done very, very well because then you can always go back to older areas that you experienced maybe only once, and you will find that your new abilities give you the like grant you unlock this, unlock that. It's again Metroidvania. Enough said, right? So beyond that, then there's Predator and combat is how you would define the other parts of the gameplay. Predator is where Batman is taking on armed enemies and has to sneak in the shadows. It really makes you feel like Batman. One of the first abilities you unlock is the inverted takedown, which you get to be on like a gargoyle and being upside down or hanging upside down. When an enemy walks underneath you, you just come down and take him up to that gargoyle, and it is awesome. Really, again, one of those moments where once it happened, you felt like, oh, I am the Bat. Uh, with that, the you can also use gadgets. When you're not playing the player campaign, you can go into the challenge mode, and they've broken it up into combat and Predator. And in the Predator ones, they have like certain missions or certain objectives that you have to fulfill to beat it. And there they really teach you how to use the gadgets and the environment, and just they really teach you a lot so that when you replay the single player campaign, you even more the bat. So the replay value is really awesome on that. With the combat, they did it a really simple system where you've got an attack button, you've got a dodge button, or a parry button, and if done just, your timing is just right, you'll always be able to see an enemy running at you. So if you time it just right, you could actually beat the game and never have been hit by an enemy. You also have to dodge, which is another button. And then you have your cape swoosh. In this game, the cape swoosh doesn't do that much. It's just a cape swoosh kind of stuns your enemy. Uh, in the realms of combat, there are 2 game changers. So before I get to that, before you get to these game changers, you're fighting your enemies and you can you block their incoming attack and you then attack them, and that'll knock them down and stun them. But they'll get back up, and so you have to ground and pound them, which is R2 and triangle, and that takes time. When Batman lands on them, he cocks up, and then as he goes to hit, he is vulnerable. So you have to be managing all the guys around you. And at first, it is time management, and then you get some game changers. The first one for me, after playing the game many, many times, I found that the best one was the batarang added to your combo. So that way you're fighting some dude, and you can batarang behind you and continue to focus on other guys, and you can make it every other attack can be the batarang. So you can really manage crowd control, or you can do crowd control with the batarang. Then there's the takedown, triangle and circle. So that just immediately takes down an enemy once you've built up your combo meter. There's another one where the combo meter turns it from building up from 8 to quicker, so it's on a 5 count instead of an 8 count. I didn't think that was much of a game changer because the combat's so fun that, yeah, yeah, I enjoyed all of that. So you're getting to the gadgets. The gadgets can actually be used a little bit in combat. The explosive gel, for instance, not just the batarang, because the batarang is obviously a gadget, but the explosive gel, once you upgrade it to an auto proximity explosive gel, you can use that in combat. Like the moment combat starts, or I mean, not the moment, moments before, like as you're walking into an area, you're like, wait a minute, they're about to be guard or people coming out. You could just quickly spray it and get away from it. And later, as you're fighting people, if enemies step over it, it'll explode. And there you go. You just took down like 2 or 3 enemies. Or it's really good against Titans. Like it'll take down or it'll stop a Titan in its tracks if he's charging you and you use the explosive gel in between you and the Titan. Uh, so getting to just the gadgets by themselves, they designated that you would use your gadgets through the D-pad, and it made me just realize, like, that's your bat belt. They just were like, your D-pad is the bat belt. And it is done amazingly. They kind of did it like a Metal Gear Solid or a Legend of Zelda style. When you start off, you have your batarang. Shortly after, you get the explosive gel. Shortly after, another. Shortly after, another. And by the end, you've got everything and actually have to go sideways for the cryptographer or the cryptographer. They filled your bat belt and it is really awesome. Then the bat suit. So throughout the game, your bat suit slowly is taking damage. And like by the end of the game, you see it like it is not like in tatters, but it's taken damage, and you see that it's taken its toll. Um, in several instances, like on the face mask, you can see that the damage it's taken has gone through, and Bruce Wayne is damaged. Like you can see the cuts, and it's like, wow, this knight is taking its toll, definitely. Like the cape is at one of the ends is like frayed. Uh, I love it the way that his bat suit takes damage, and also his facial hair. By the end of the night, you can see his beard has already started to grow because it's been like 12 hours since he shaved, which makes perfect sense. So now we get to the final end. You know, do I think this is a perfect game? Especially if I was just again comparing it to nothing, just being like, so before this game, there were Batman games, but they were all right. This one made you feel like you were Batman for a night. And so, yes, I would say it's a perfect Batman experience. Like, you want to feel like Batman for a night? Arkham Asylum. I do give it my highest rating of gourmazing. After this, we will be talking about Arkham City. See you there.